Last spring, on a drizzly morning in my modest backyard plot, I noticed something that stopped me mid-watering can. A bare patch of soil where I'd scattered a few tablespoons of yesterday's plain rice the evening before had come alive. Delicate white threads laced across the surface like the finest lace, and by the next dawn, earthworms were surfacing in gentle waves, their casts dotting the ground like tiny dark jewels. No fancy amendments, no store-bought boosters, just a humble leftover from supper. That single moment reminded me why I garden the way I do, not for quick fixes, but for the quiet conversations happening beneath our feet. In the years since, I've watched this simple pantry staple turn tired beds into thriving ones across everything from cool, damp corners in the Pacific Northwest to sun-baked patches in southern Europe. It's a gentle nudge to the soil's own rhythms, and today I want to share how 5 everyday rice techniques can do the same in your garden, no matter if you're tending raised beds in Zone 5 or a cottage plot in the mild British Isles. I've learned over seasons of trial and quiet observation that the real magic in any garden begins underground. Earthworms aren't just visitors, they're the tireless workers who aerate, mix and enrich the earth we depend on. When they thrive, everything else follows. Stronger roots, sweeter harvests, fewer struggles with pests. Healthy soil teams with microbes too, those invisible partners that break down organic matter and unlock nutrients plants crave. And nothing seems to spark that underground feast quite like rice. It's an ancient grain, after all, grown and shared for thousands of years in kitchens and fields alike. Here in our home gardens, it becomes a bridge between what we cook and what the soil hungers for, feeding the life that feeds our flowers, vegetables and herbs. Let's walk through this together, season by season, bed by bed. I'll share the techniques exactly as I use them, with the small stories and gentle adjustments that have made them reliable for me, and I hope for you too. The quick spark, cooked rice as a living invitation. Picture this. You've just finished a simple supper of rice and beans. Instead of scraping every last grain into the compost bin, you carry a small bowl outside. Press 2 or 3 tablespoons of that plain, cooled rice lightly into the top inch of moist soil in a hungry bed. Maybe where your tomatoes or peppers will soon go. Within a day, you'll see the first signs if the weather is mild and the ground warm enough, above 55 degrees or so. A soft, cottony haze of fungal threads spreads outward, pale and branching, catching the morning light like frost in reverse. What's happening is a feast for the smallest residents. Cooking opens up the starches in a way raw grains can't, giving bacteria and fungi an easy meal. They multiply fast, and the earthworms sense the party from across the bed. I remember one early June in my Zone 7 garden when a single spoonful in a struggling strawberry patch drew worms from neighbouring rows overnight. By week's end, the soil there was darker, softer, almost spongy under my fingers, and the plants sent out fresh runners like they'd been waiting for just that encouragement. This works beautifully in spring and summer across much of the United States and Europe. In cooler northern spots like Scandinavia or the Scottish Highlands, wait until the soil warms in late May. In warmer Mediterranean climates, you can start earlier but ease up during the hottest weeks to avoid any souring. I spread it every couple of weeks during active growth, always in thin layers across a wide area rather than piling it in one spot. Too much in one place can steal oxygen, leaving a sticky, off-smelling patch that sets back roots instead of helping them. Light mulch of straw or fallen leaves afterward keeps things damp and protected from birds who might otherwise investigate. One story stays with me. A neighbour down the lane, new to organic growing, tried this on her heavy clay border after hearing me mention it over the fence. She used plain leftover jasmine rice from her fridge, nothing seasoned, mind you, and within 10 days her struggling lavender perked up, sending out side shoots she'd never seen before. The key, I reminded her gently, is plain rice only. Anything salty or oily from a takeaway box can pull moisture from the soil life and leave it parched. Stick to what you'd cook at home in plain water, and the garden thanks you. I've found this technique especially kind to young transplants. Slip a pinch near the base of a new zucchini or basil seedling and watch the roots reach towards that spot by the next watering. It's not feeding the plant directly, it's building the web that does the feeding, the way nature intended. And in containers on a balcony in urban Europe or a small patio in Chicago, the same small spoonful pressed in and mulched brings that same quiet surge without weighing down the pot. Sustaining the quiet seasons, crushed raw rice for steady nourishment. When the days shorten and frost nips the edges of the kale, many gardeners tuck their beds in and wait for spring. But the soil never truly sleeps. It slows, yes, drawing life deeper, yet a steady whisper of food keeps the microbes and worms gently active. That's where a handful of uncooked rice, lightly crushed, steps in like a slow-burning candle through the dark months. Take a cup or so of plain long-grain rice, cheap and cheerful from any pantry, and roll it gently under a towel with a rolling pin or give it a few pulses in an old blender. You want cracked pieces, not fine powder. Powder packs down and seals off air, which is the last thing we want. These tiny fragments hold their starches tight, releasing them bit by bit as rain and time work their magic. I work a thin layer into the top 2 inches of my beds in late autumn, just before the ground settles into its winter rest. 1 cup covers about 10 square feet nicely, enough to carry a New England-style winter or a damp British one without fuss. Last November, in a bed that had grown tired after a long season of beans and squash, I added the crushed grains alongside my usual leaf mulch. Come February thaw, I lifted a corner of the cover and found worms already at work, their tunnels soft and open even under a light skim of ice. The soil smelled sweet and earthy, not the flat, lifeless scent of untouched ground. By early March, when I planted early peas, the roots dove deep and the vines climbed sturdy and green, while my neighbour's peas, in unamended soil, lagged behind. This method shines in colder climates where the ground freezes solid for months. In Zone 4 or 5 gardens across the northern United States or Central Europe, it keeps a subtle warmth alive around each grain, thanks to the steady microbial activity. In milder coastal areas of the Pacific Northwest or Western France, you can apply it a touch later, even into December, because the soil stays workable longer. Store your crushed rice in a glass jar on the pantry shelf. It keeps indefinitely. No moths or spoilage to worry about. A single big bag from the store can last 2 or 3 winters for most home plots. Watch for the signs of success. A darker, crumblier texture when you dig a finger in come spring, and those lovely worm casts pushing up like small volcanoes. If birds seem too interested before the grains settle in, simply rake a thin layer of soil or compost over them. And never scatter on frozen ground. The grains sit there useless, tempting wildlife instead of feeding the earth. A neighbour in a humid corner of the Midwest once worried her crushed rice had done nothing after a particularly wet winter. But when she forked the bed in April, she found it lighter, full of air pockets and crawling with life. The extra moisture had simply slowed the breakdown, which is normal in soggy climates. In drier Mediterranean summers that follow, the same bed held moisture better, cutting her watering by nearly half. A liquid whisper from the kitchen, fermented rice water as a gentle tonic. Every time we rinse rice before cooking, that cloudy water swirling down the drain holds a treasure most of us never notice. Starches, vitamins, minerals, all the beginnings of a living brew that traditional gardeners across Asia have cherished for generations. Here in our Western gardens, we can capture that same power with almost no effort. After rinsing a cup of rice in cool water, never hot, which can steal some of the goodness, pour the cloudy liquid into a clean glass jar. Cover it loosely with a cloth or paper towel and set it on the counter for 2 to 3 days. You'll know it's ready when a faint, pleasantly sour smell rises like fresh bread or a good sourdough starter, with tiny bubbles drifting up. That's the lactic bacteria at work, the same friendly microbes that make sauerkraut or yogurt so nourishing. Dilute 1 part of this ferment with 10 parts plain, non-chlorinated water and pour it gently around the base of thirsty plants every week or so during the growing season. I use it on everything from roses to runner beans, and the response is gentle but steady. Leaves deepen in colour, flowers hold longer, and fruits set more reliably. In my small kitchen garden last July, a row of peppers that had looked a bit peaked after a dry spell perked up within days of their first drink. The soil around them stayed lively, and harvest baskets overflowed weeks ahead of schedule. This tonic travels well across climates. In cooler, shorter seasons of the northern UK or Zone 3 gardens in Canada, stretch the fermentation to 4 days if the kitchen stays below 70 degrees. In warmer southern Europe or the American South, 3 days is plenty before it tips past its prime. Never let it go longer than that, or the smell turns sharp and the brew can stress young roots instead of helping them. Always use it fresh. If it sits too long, tip it into the compost and start anew. One quiet pleasure is watching pollinators visit the healthier blooms that follow these feedings. Stronger plants mean more nectar, more bees, more balance in the garden. I've paired it with companion plantings too. Nasturtiums trailing near squash get the same dilute sip, and the whole bed hums with life. For container gardeners in city apartments across Paris or New York, a weekly splash keeps pots productive without the weight of heavy fertilizers. Inside the worm bin, rice as a quiet multiplier. For those of us keeping a worm bin tucked beside the shed or under the kitchen sink, rice becomes something even more special. It turns a steady recycler into a thriving nursery, producing richer castings that seed the whole garden with living goodness. A few tablespoons of plain cooked rice or a small pinch of those crushed raw grains mixed into the usual kitchen scraps once a week does wonders. The worms, those red wigglers we love, don't eat the rice directly. They feast on the microbes that bloom around it. Their castings come out darker, smoother, almost buttery when you rub them between your fingers. I started noticing the difference after my first month of trying it. The bin smelled sweeter, the worms multiplied visibly, and when I spread those castings into my tomato beds, the plants stood tall and resisted early blight better than ever. New bins especially respond. One I started fresh in March reached full speed by June instead of August, thanks to the weekly rice nudge. In cooler European winters, I ease back to every 10 days so the bin doesn't get too active and heat up. In warmer American summers, I make sure the bedding stays like a wrung-out sponge, never soggy, or the extra starch can turn sour. Bury the rice under an inch of bedding to keep fruit flies at bay, and always use plain grains only. The castings themselves become gold for the garden. I top-dress perennials with a thin layer in spring, side-dress vegetables mid-season, and even stir a handful into potting mixes for seedlings. The microbial life travels with them, waking up tired soil wherever it lands. A friend in a small urban homestead in Berlin used her rice-fed bin castings on balcony herbs and watched basil leaves triple in size while staying soft and fragrant through a hot August. Building the bones, rice holes for structure and strength. Heavy clay or compacted ground can test even the most patient gardener. Water pools, roots struggle, and worms stay away. Rice holes offer a natural living answer that improves with time instead of fading like some mined amendments. These lightweight silica-rich husks pry open dense particles, creating channels for air and moisture. I mix 1 part hulls into 4 parts soil across the top 6 inches of a new bed, forking it in gently. Within a season, the ground drains better, stays workable longer, and feels alive underfoot. In pots and raised beds, they do the work of perlite but renew themselves slowly, feeding silica back into the earth. Plants take up that silica and build tougher cell walls. Tomatoes stand straighter against wind. Peppers shrug off blossom end rot more easily. Even roses hold their petals longer through summer storms. Look for parboiled hulls if you can. They're heat-treated and won't sprout stray rice plants in your seed trays. I spread a 2-inch layer as mulch on established beds too. Weeds stay down because light can't reach their seeds. Soil temperature steadies against the swings of day and night, and moisture lingers so I water less. In dry California summers or Greek hillsides, that saved watering can add up to real relief. In wetter zones like the UK lowlands or the American Midwest, the hulls keep things from turning into mud. Over time, as they break down, they add carbon and trace minerals without ever compacting. I've used them in a struggling clay border for 3 seasons now, and earthworm numbers have climbed steadily. The bed that once cracked like pottery in dry spells now stays soft and crumbly even in August heat. Pair them with your other rice techniques, maybe a splash of fermented water after spreading hulls, and the whole bed feels like it's breathing easier, weaving the techniques through the garden year. What I love most is how these 5 ideas flow together like the seasons themselves. In early spring, a quick cooked rice spark wakes the beds for planting. Through summer, fermented water keeps the momentum gentle and steady. Autumn brings crushed raw rice to carry life through the cold, while hulls rebuild structure wherever needed. The worm bin, fed rice year-round in moderation, supplies castings that tie everything together, seeding beds with living communities that compound over time. In my own plot, I rotate the methods bed by bed so nothing overwhelms. Tomato bed might get cooked rice in June, hulls worked in the previous fall, and worm castings as a mid-season side dress. The beans nearby receive a fermented tonic every 10 days and a light mulch of hulls to hold moisture. Even in small spaces, a balcony in Amsterdam or a courtyard in Atlanta, the same principles scale down beautifully. A single jar of ferment and a handful of hulls can transform a few pots into a productive oasis. Troubleshooting comes with the territory, of course. If you see no white threads after cooked rice, the soil might be too cold or too dry. Water lightly and wait a few warmer days. Sour smells in the worm bin almost always trace back to wetness or too much at once. Stir in shredded paper and ease the rice for a week. In very hot, humid corners, fermented water might need diluting even more to keep things balanced. These are small adjustments learned over time that keep the garden speaking your language. The deeper reward is the shift in how we see our kitchens and our soil. That leftover rice isn't waste anymore. It's currency in an ancient exchange. The pantry becomes a resource as valuable as any garden centre aisle, and the ground beneath our feet grows richer each year. Earthworms rise more readily, microbes hum along, plants stand resilient, and the whole plot feels more alive, more connected. So step outside with me in spirit. Reach for that bowl of plain rice from last night's meal. Press it in, watch and wait, and let the soil show you its gratitude in the weeks and seasons ahead. Your garden will remember, and so will you. There's a quiet satisfaction in knowing that something as ordinary as rice can spark such extraordinary life right there in your own backyard. The earth is ready whenever you are.